keeping current matters. Okay, because they get some really good information about the market and explain things in the back. For example, like 2003, 2004, when I wasn't licensed, and that's one of the things that they say that caused the market crash. That people were refinancing and cashing out, cashing out, and it got to the point where you couldn't do it anymore, and people were underwater with their properties, and the prices started to go down, and they said, you know what, like the house is not worth what I'm paying for. I'm just gonna let it go, and that gave like the influx of, even though we were in the buyer's market, it gave more foreclosures, bringing the prices even lower. Do you see that? I'm sorry, thinking back to those years, do you think that's what happened too?
Well, it's probably an oversimplification of what happened, but back in those days, very few people were buying a house because they wanted a nice place to live for them and their family. Why they were buying a house is they were buying a house because they thought they were going to get rich, and they not only wanted to buy one house, but they wanted to buy another, and they wanted to buy another, and of course it was a house of cards that was going on. So when it all collapsed, it just that the prices had gotten out of control, and there were no more buyers. You've got to have end users. You have to have people that want to live in those homes, that want to move their families in there, and not a world of quick speculators. And that was, you had too many speculators back in those days.
Gotcha. Okay. And the guidelines for getting a loan were a lot looser, right? There wasn't too many restrictions and too many requirements to get a home loan.
It was, I don't know really how to put it, but you're right. The underwriting standards were much looser. The bankers had this kind of attitude of that as long as they could sell the mortgage off to some investors, either the large ones, Fannie or Freddie, the government-sponsored entities, that as long as they could get rid of the loan and they had no recourse, they didn't care.
Wow.
Okay. And, that when the collapse came, it wiped out a lot of people, wiped out a lot of individuals, wiped out a lot of banks, and it really wiped out the large government-sponsored entities, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that were underwriting all of these loans. Now, they had to get bailed out by the federal government, and the federal government owns them today. The government-sponsored entities were private stock corporations that were sponsored by the United States government, but they had investors that bought stock in those companies, just like you or I that wanted to, invest in a company. And they were kind of irresponsible during those years, and it wiped out all of their equity. So now the government owns those companies. The government would like to spin them off again if they could, because the government doesn't want to be in that business. But that was, poor underwriting, poor decision making, wiped them all out.
Wow. Okay. And do you see that happening now? Because again, the market, is going a little crazy with the low inventory. In my opinion, I don't think it's going to be the same as last time, but I want to get your opinion.
Well, what scares me now about the market is everything to do with the COVID-19. You have all kinds of people that are out of work. You have all kinds of people now that are missing their mortgage payments. We have more delinquencies than we've ever seen in the last 10 years. And this cannot end well. It just cannot. We're into the second year of this COVID stuff. It has been good for you and I, okay, because people are still wanting to buy real estate. But think of all the people that are just months away from facing foreclosure. I think we're going to have a big wave of that again.
A big wave.
I think so.
Okay. But with that wave, do you think the prices are going to go down or going to just balance out the market?
Well, you know, the one thing about being an appraiser is that when you get your license, they don't hand you a crystal ball.